It's time for the Nameless Debate Show, and today we have the African Transformation Movement, and they are represented by Sibusiso Mncwabe, and also on the other side we have the Pan-Africanist Congress, the PAC, and they are represented by Jackie Siroke. We've been told that the president can unfortunately not join us. He is in a meeting in Parliament, so Jackie Siroke, who is the Publicity and Information Secretary of the Pan-Africanist Congress. And today we're asking, does it matter which country our office bearers have been born in? Does it matter which countries our office bearers, public office bearers, have been born in? So, following the news that Dr. Xiaomei Harvard, ANC MP of Chinese origin, was linked to sharing classified information with the Communist Party of China, which of course we know that the intelligence deputy minister has disputed. The African Transformation Movement says that it's time to hold a public debate around whether we allow naturalized citizens like Dr. Xiaomei Harvard to occupy public office, whether it is in the legislature, the councils, or even in the National Assembly. So in Gabon's constitution, Article 10 of it says, any person naturalized into Gabonese citizenship may not present his or herself as a presidential candidate. Only their descendants, having resided in Gabon without discontinuity, may present themselves, beginning with the fourth generation of descendants. That is according to Gabon's constitution. Let's read South Africa's constitution, section 86 of the constitution on the election of the president. It says, at its first sitting after its election and whenever necessary to fill a vacancy, the National Assembly must elect a woman or man from among its members to be president. And we know that when it comes to being a member of the legislature, it means that you need to be a South African citizen. It makes no distinction between whether you are a naturalized citizen or not. So then the ANC in 2014, in one of its discussion documents, discussed this particular issue. The ANC in that discussion document in 2015 says that in the recent election, an observation has been made around the eligibility for election as president, premier and presiding officers. The constitution provides for the president to indirectly be elected from the National Assembly, as is the case of other office bearers, including premiers in the province. There is a need for further clarification and exploring the possibility of whether a distinction between a natural-born citizen and a naturalized citizen can be made when considering eligibility for assuming office of presidency, premier, or presiding officers. Let me welcome my guest, Jackie Siroke, who's joining us on the line, and also we have Sibusiso Mncwabe, who is speaking on behalf of the African Transformation Movement, ATM. Sibusiso, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Your 1 minute starts now on the question that we're posing.
Thank you, my brother, and good evening to your listeners, Andre. No, to us, as you have correctly quoted, we want to have an open debate whether this should be allowed, because we are of the view that a naturalized person should not hold a public office, because that person will always be paying allegiance to his or her mother country. If you are in America and your country is South Africa, and America says, we want to attack South Africa, and you are there in the office bearers cluster, you will always keep off your country. For the security of the state, the security of the country, we don't think that the naturalized person should hold the public office where they are exposed on critical information of the state. That's our position.
Okay, Sibusiso, thank you so much for your time. If you can just quickly find a quiet place. Sibusiso Mncwabe, the spokesperson for the African Transformation Movement. Listening into that is Jackie Siroke, who is the Publicity and Information Secretary of the Pan-Africanist Congress. Jackie, if you can please try and find a quiet place as well. Seems to be some background noise that is bleeding through your mouthpiece. So Jackie Siroke is the Publicity and Information Secretary of the Pan-Africanist Congress. We're getting him on the line now. Okay, Jackie, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Your 1 minute starts now on the question that we're asking today. Does it matter where our office bearers have been born? Does it matter which country they have been born in?
Yes, it matters only in this sense that contextually in the Southern African region, there has been a very historic migration between the peoples of the area, and all those people are related to one another. So the borders, while they are real, they are also artificial because they break families, break people. Now, in a constitutional democracy like South Africa, we have to consider these factors and apply common sense in the relationship between the peoples of Africa. So naturalizing some citizens and even offering them full rights in a state, in a country, would be the right thing to do, procedurally speaking.
Your 1 minute is over. We're now going to move back to Sibusiso. Sibusiso, on what you said during your 1 minute, what basis are you arguing that somebody who has been naturalized will not be able to be patriotic to its full extent to the country that they have been naturalized in?
Well, my brother, the issue of the conflict of interest will always arise in this matter. As I've said that, for example, we are in the executive of South Africa or America, and America decides to attack South Africa. And because we are in the executive, you get hold of this first-hand information. And your descendants, your parents and your siblings are still there in South Africa. Naturally, you will always tip off your parents, tip off your country to be on guard. The issue of the security of
what do you base that on? What do you base that on when you say naturally?
That's a common sense, my brother. That's a common sense. You cannot allow your siblings to perish in your country of origin just because you have been naturalized in France or in America. When those countries now become hostilities, you will always take sides. And unfortunately, the side that will take naturally is your mother country. That is why we're not shocked when the intelligence services, or the alert, let me put it that way, the alert report of Ms. Harvard comes up this week. To us, we said, but naturally, we should have expected this. So it comes back to us as political parties when we deploy. It should start with us to say, but this is a public office. This person will be in parliament and be exposed in serious files. This person might be in the cabinet and be privy to classified information. What happens to the situations where there are threats between countries? And many countries are doing that, even in America. So that's our position, that yes, we are not discriminating. We can have our sisters, our brothers from everywhere participate in the economy, but when it comes to holding the public office, which will expose them to the secrets and certain strategies of the state, no, they should not be there.
Okay. Jackie, do you agree with the concerns that Sibusiso is raising there? That he says naturally that person's allegiance will still lie with their mother country. And we know that, of course, some countries, including the United States of America, for instance, they don't allow a naturalized person to stand for presidential election.
No, I don't. I don't agree. I think that in the specific context of Southern Africa, you could have people who are naturalized in the borders of South Africa, or even the borders of one of the SADC countries, and those people have a full right to participate. Their loyalty cannot be confined to borders, and quite frankly, if the voters choose to support or elect such a person, it will be the will of the majority deciding on such. More than that, because we have a history of discrimination, a history of cutting out people on the basis of creed, color, and so on, it would be unfair in the PAC view to discriminate against Africans in that manner. If they are naturalized, they should have the full rights like everybody else.
Speaking about somebody who has been naturalized, Jackie, yesterday we spoke to the Minister of Home Affairs who detailed what he told Parliament about 5 officials who unlawfully gave what's his name, Bushiri, Shepherd Bushiri, and his wife permanent residency in the country. And we also know about reports of people having gotten citizenships unlawfully so. Don't you think that there is a concern there if we, for instance, just look at that particular aspect on how people are able to manipulate the Home Affairs system so that they get the South African citizenship, and that person could end up being the president of the country, for instance?
Yeah, you could also be making the same example with the famous Guptas.
Yes, exactly.
Who also had that. Yes, but the reality is that anyone who stands for public office must be given thorough and rigorous scrutiny in such a way that whether their loyalty and so on should be checked by a fair system.
How do you do that?
To go to.
How do you do that?
How do they, for instance, I mean, you're talking about illegalities and unlawful processes within the Home Affairs system. Mm-hmm. That sort of thing should be checked. If you look at a country like the U.S., I mean, because it is exposed to most of us, they would go through thorough checks and debates on the origins of a person. And you know that even lies and discrimination can be checked and verified. When Obama, for instance, stood for presidency, his position, he was said to be not an American and so on and so forth by the opponent. Mm-hmm. But all of that was verified. So you cannot discriminate on the basis of naturalizing person. That's our position. But if there are shenanigans and all those not be so, and obviously they apply to anyone, including people who are born in a country. If there are problems that they have, like criminality and so on, they will obviously fall off.
Okay,
that's our point.
But the damage would have been caused by then. Sibusiso, are you then saying, based on your proposal and looking at our current legislation and constitution, are you then saying that the constitution should be amended?
Well, definitely, my brother Anthony. It should be reviewed and amended, because this thing of naturalization, let's all remember, it's on paper. I hear my colleague is talking. It's on paper is not the conscience of the person. Conscience is a natural thing within him. Papers can be procedurally correct, legally correct, but your conscience will still be with your mother country. It cannot be correct that you are saying, because all papers are fine, this person has been here, he's in the branch, then we expose him to the secrets of the society. Of the state. That one is incorrect. We cannot allow that. We need indigenous people to run their own country. We are not discriminating, as we have correctly quoted in America. We are not discriminating, but you cannot be too democratic more than democracy itself. We are trying to preserve and protect what belongs to us as a nation, the security of the very same nation as well. We cannot say because this one has followed all the legalities and then we should not discriminate. Criminals are in the country. Criminals are people who are coming from here and outside. You find that they are all papers, the papers that they have, they are all correct. But at the end of the day, they will transport money or whatever to their own country of origin. So that is why our position is, let us open up this debate. But our own position is, when it's come to public office, give that to the indigenous people, the citizens of the country. Our constitution is being praised as the best in the world, but it compromises us in a number of things.
How far, Sibusiso, do you then go down the line to deal with, to say that, let's say, for instance, your argument finds favor, and the political parties in parliament says, let's amend the constitution. How far down do you go to determine whether this person is now a natural-born person in South Africa, meaning that this is a natural-born citizen and no longer qualifies as a naturalized citizen? Because if I'm born of parents who are naturalized, does that mean that I too do not qualify for public office, even though I would be born in South Africa? Let's make an example of Kenneth Kaunda, for instance, born of parents from Malawi, but then later on he became the president of Zambia.
Well, that's a different issue altogether.
How so?
You are born here, you are raised here up until that level. You are not born in another country. It's only your parents. We'll have to, when we debate this matter, we'll obviously look at the generations, which generation we talk about. But if the first-hand generation, that is where we have a problem. But if you are born here, take the issue of Barack Obama, as my colleague was saying. I'm of the view that it's his father was from Kenya, not him. He grew up there in America, he's an American child, and everything is there. It's a different generation. It's a different kind of a generation that we can speak about. But someone who's directly from China, and he's here, she's here, and then is deployed in parliament, there's a problem.
Let's take your call, 011-714-2006. Tweet at Aldrin Simpian. You can drop me a voice note on 0614-104-107. Does it matter where our public representatives or public office bearers are born? Does it matter which country they are born in? Mark, joining us from Joburg. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Aldrin, I'm going to call it spade without being derogatory, and I'll rather be factual. I don't believe anything that those last few guys were talking about being natural or whatever. We all know what's been on the news and what certain party leaders have said in this country. Me as a guy that my granddad and my father was born in this country, I've been born in this country. I was born post 1997 and came out of school when Mandela was president. So I've never had any other presidents ruling over me in my post my teens.
Yeah.
But it's been said on the radio, even though I'm a natural in this country, I will never rule this country because I'm white. That's really been said and it's really been out there. All I say is, whoever it is that's running, we need to vote in the correct people. Within this country, and in, I wouldn't say all of Africa, but a large majority of Africa, we vote in the wrong people, and the wrong people keep on doing wrong. We will vote in a Jacob Zuma, we'll vote in this code. And it seems like us as Africans, we never learn from our mistakes.
Okay. Andile, joining us from the Eastern Cape, please be brief as well.
So, what is wrong is that anyone cannot allow anyone who comes from elsewhere, and come and take a prominent office in this country, because he can divulge information which must not be. Must not be seen or not be heard from anyone. I'm not interested in that. That this country mustn't allow, even our neighbors cannot allow that someone can take a prominent office. Even our neighbor countries cannot allow that. Thank you.
Okay, Andile, let's take your voice notes.
Aldrin, it matters a lot. The only time when it doesn't matter, it's when someone is born here in South Africa. When he is born here in South Africa, surely he is a South African. He is a South African born, international, whatever. But if someone is born outside of South Africa and naturalized and was just naturalized, then it's a problem. He cannot be holding a public office. No.
Good afternoon, Mr. Aldrin and your guest. You know, South Africa is a compromised country. Maybe, I'm not sure, we are trying to be a darling of the continent and the world. And that works against the people of South Africa. I mean, we are not a continent, we are a country. There's no way you can accommodate everything and anything other countries they don't do. If they don't do in the United States, if they don't do in other countries, why do we have to do it here? Do you want to tell me that we don't have competent people that can run those offices rather than to opt for people who come outside Africa, for that matter, to come and be in parliament? Xiaomei Harvard from Joburg.
Okay, let's get the closing remarks. Jackie, your 1 minute starts now.
Yes, the people of Southern Africa are integrated through ages. You have a president in Zimbabwe who was born in Zambia. It is possible through a political party system that members of the parties, most of them, come from neighboring countries. So you cannot discriminate on the basis of saying people are not naturalized because they were born in the artificial borders. So South Africa's legislation must primarily promote human rights and fairness without discrimination at all.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Let's go to Sibusiso. Sibusiso, your 1 minute starts now.
Well, my brother,
okay, just give us a second there, Sibusiso. Your 1 minute starts now.
Yes, the government of South Africa must belong to the South Africans. Whether we are naturalized, participate in all other things freely. But where you will be exposed to the classified information of the state, we do not accept that. That should be only be reserved for the citizens, pure citizens, indigenous people of this particular country.
And thank you so much. We did it just before the 1 minute is over. That is Jackie Siroke, the Publicity and Information Secretary of the Pan-Africanist Congress, and also Sibusiso Mncwabe, African Transformation Movement spokesperson. We've come to the end of the Nameless Debate Show. It's 5:30.